The link in the description is only there to see the source material. Do not under any circumstance go to these people with the intent to be a dick. I don't support witch hunts or lynch mobbing, so don't be either. As for the subjects themselves, my video is for the purposes of criticism and entertainment. Take it or leave it. My content is not here to start drama. Please do not treat it like it is. See this disown stamp clearly labeled in the thumbnail in bright red? Or see this description where I explain that I don't like this video anymore? Yeah? You see that? Right there? You see it? See this follow-up video where I explain that I fucked up? You see this video of Jar telling people to lay off me? Cool. Oh, and do you see this video posted 2 years later to explain how much I don't like my initial video with this comment from Just a Robot himself telling people to leave me the fuck alone? Why is it that Jar fans seem to have a hard time understanding any of this? I don't know. But welcome to me screaming about my old video for the, what, 5th, 6th time? Maybe more? I've lost count. For those who are newer here and don't know this context, this is just a Sylveon, a Jar fan who found Jar's video on me last year, came to me to leave a bunch of destructive comments on various accounts, pretending to be me whilst at the same time leaving destructive comments like these, and just overall being a general thorn in my side. Obviously, I've blocked them and they relish in that fact, but they still persist and I still stumble into their shit even trying to ignore them, so I feel the need to, finally say something like this. Break my I don't do commentaries on people I don't like rule. Just this once. In 2016, let me repeat, in 2016, Giancarlo Paramango made a list of 11 Pokemon that could destroy the world. Just a Robot made a commentary on that. I fumbled about and made probably what is my second worst commentary on that. Then Jar returned to sender by making a video on me, and then Sylveon makes one 5 years later. And this is where I come in. Now, I want to preface this by saying that I do not stand by my initial video on Jar. This is not to re-spark the drama, though if this drama does re-spark, I'm going to absolutely blame this little idiot here. As such, don't take me responding to Sylveon with counter-arguments as a front on Just a Robot, or a sign that there's any part of my video on him that I stand by, because no. I think it's a terrible video. I'm literally only defending my previous video from bad points. And you'll understand why I'm prefacing this later, as in, give it a couple interjections.
So a person from the Neo-CC steps away from what they normally talk about to talk about Pokemon and fails every which way you cut it.
Political commentator decides to step away from doing what they normally do to talk about Pokemon. And fail every which way you cut it.
OMG, that's the thing I said, Lamo. It's like we're the same person or something.
Except, obviously, to literally everyone with 2 functioning brain cells, we're not. If we were, you'd know Just a Robot and I aren't on bad terms and haven't been in years. You'd also know what V Omega did to me and others as you sit there and play the victim for him publicly responding to an Ask blog. But of course, you wouldn't care about his grooming and manipulation tactics though, because Kiwi Farms is a much more credible source of information, right? Also, why would anyone want to be me? Half the time, I don't want to be me.
Just a Robot. You know what? I'm tired of doing videos on reactors and social justice warriors all the time. I want to take a break. Maybe I'll do a commentary on something that won't make me angry. Hey, what's this? 11 Pokemon that could destroy the world? Well, that doesn't sound so bad.
Okay, this is going to seriously bother me if I don't bring this up here. I get it, you're trying to be a robot, that's your character, but the way you speak is grating. It's as if you're a child trying to sound incredibly cool, but you wind up sounding more edgy than anything. It makes me want to play dodgeball in traffic.
It's always great when someone opens a video with ad hominem attack. Now I don't have a problem with ad hominem attacks, but here's the thing, Doodletones dose. In her video on Pika-chan Gamer she complains about him doing the same thing, yet she's doing the same thing to Jar. You're such a hypocrite.
Yeah, if you didn't catch that, this point is ripped almost word for word from Jar's video.
It's always great when people start off a commentary with an ad hominem attack. Now, normally I don't care about ad hominem attacks, but the thing is, Doodletone does.
Even show off your real voice instead of using Sylveon. Use a different program. Or better yet, use your real voice.
Returning viewers will definitely know this, but the whole use your real voice argument seriously gets on my nerves. Same goes for the show us your real face argument. Neither of these critiques debunk anything anyone has to say. Instead, this is what is known as an ad hominem, which is basically something directed at a person instead of the argument that they hold.
So it's bad for Pika-chan Gamer 64 to complain about someone using Spiconia, but it's a-okay for you to complain about me using a robot voice. You're such a hypocrite.
Geez, if the trying to be me whilst pinching all my old Elizabeth avatars wasn't bad enough, we have plagiarism from Jar, and worse yet, this is one of Jar's weaker points from that video, considering what I, and coincidentally Pikachu Gamer did, were actually ad hominem attacks, considering neither of us based these production critiques on debunking their claims. Pika's was a little more on the iffy side, considering his thing was directly in response to a point being made in Steel's video, though it wasn't really related to Pika trying to prove anything. Mine, on the other hand, is in direct response to something that isn't even a point. So to call this an ad hominem on either of our ends is just wrong, actually. But anyway, yeah, just a bit of forewarning. A lot of Sylveon's points are plagiarized from Jar, if not straight up all of them. So this video is kind of the most redundant one to ever exist on me. But, you know, since he wants me to directly respond to him, I will. But this is why I preface that these are not shots at just a robot. As far as I'm concerned, we chill, and I'll get back into that in my final thoughts. On that note, I apologize, Jar. By nature of this commentary, I'm gonna be responding to a couple of your points from back in the day.
Also, I love how she complains about Jar being edgy, yet 3 seconds later she turns around and talks about wanting to play dodgeball in traffic. I mean, can you even hear what you are saying?
I see you're also taking points from Jar's comment section as well.
Today I'm bringing you guys 11 Pokemon that could destroy the world. For further clarification, I'm talking about the actual destruction of the Earth, not humanity. And by Earth, I mean our Earth, not the Pokemon world.
Keep that in mind for later on because that's going to be important.
Well, the Pokemon world is based off our own world, but I get what you're talking about.
Do you? Because I can tell you I'm unsure if you get it, as you'll prove later in this video. While, yes, the world of Pokemon is loosely based on our Earth, the logic and sciences between our Earth and the Pokemon Earth is not the most similar. I mean, hell, Pokemon trainers can be around Macargos, which are approximately 18,000 degrees Fahrenheit, which is roughly hotter than the sun. I know you do bring this up later, but we're bringing it up now, for a lot of this list will be—
But maybe Macargo just does not want to burn her. In the anime, Ash tries to ride Ponyta but gets burnt. But later in the episode, Ash gains Ponyta's trust. So when he tries to ride her again, he does not get burnt. So it seems the fire Pokemon can prevent their flames from hurting people.
Okay, sure. If I may, though, all this proves is that I use a bad example, which, yeah, makes sense. This is my second worst commentary we're talking about. It's kind of a given that it's shit. But the premise of the Pokemon world and the Earth that we're on being at this very moment being ultimately different logically, it's still very relevant to the point in question. Unless you plan to prove that logically we live in a very similar world with Macargo, whereas the one in that screenshot isn't burning the trainer because he supposedly trusts her, that doesn't mean that one that's in battle wouldn't fry someone on the other end of the stadium. Imagine a miniature sun that's hotter than the sun, just a handful of feet away from a human. Alternatively, I remember Nihilistic Snake bringing up a very decent example of Earthquake being a move ground Pokemon can learn, and mentions how that doesn't just destroy the Pokemon world, having those happen multiple times, in very close proximity sometimes, every day. Mind you, we're not talking about normal real-life earthquakes either. These fuckers open the ground below the Pokemon they're being used against in some iterations, and that's just something that doesn't actually happen in real life. Go figure, it'd be really fucking scary if it were to. So unless you're going to sit here and provide evidence that not even really Jar gave regarding this idea that the Pokemon world and the human world aren't all that different, because Jar even agrees with that, then I'm sorry, this point at best is just a point against my example and nothing more. Hey, you're the one that wanted me to keep Giancarlo stressing the separation of the Pokemon world and the human world in mind. This is on you.
I didn't want to end with this one.
Electrobe? Really?
Nor did I want to lead with it, or put it in the middle. I know this isn't the top 10, but you always have to save the best for last, and I wasn't sure if this one was the best, or the worst.
It's the worst, dude.
You, gonna explain why there, friend? I mean, saying that Electrode is just the worst Pokemon to choose for this list without explanation is rather unfortunate. I mean, you must know something I don't. Inform me, because as far as I'm concerned, Electrode isn't even the worst electric-type Pokemon for this list.
When Jar says the worst, he does not mean the worst Pokemon ever, he means the worst Pokemon on the list.
When I say it's the worst, I'm not saying it's the worst Pokemon ever. I'm saying it's the worst Pokemon on this list.
I'm sorry, what was the purpose of this video again? To just parrot literally word for word what Jar did against me 5 years ago? Worse yet is that you don't even elaborate in the same way Jar did. You just stop at the point given without expanding on why. Whereas Jar expands on how I could have known where his point stemmed from by highlighting what Giancarlo said just prior. Had this actually been an original video and not just effectively a high school paper comprised of copy and pasted Wikipedia articles, I would have mistaken what you had said as incorrect assumption made based purely on nothing, because the way Jar had previously worded himself gave me the wrong impression that he was talking about Electrode as if he was the worst Pokemon to put on this list. At all. Hence my counter-argument here.
This is probably fine in the Pokemon world, since we've seen them explode many times without causing too much damage, but that wouldn't be the same in our world. You see, Electrodes store their energy under very high pressure, so when they explode, you can be sure they will cause great damage. This probably isn't reflected in the anime because it's a kid's show. Electrode are also very attracted to electricity, and the problem is, only a small shock is enough to set them off. Actually, its Pokedex entry in Omega Ruby states that during thunderstorms, you can see Electrode exploding everywhere, which brings me to my next point. One Electrode alone would not be enough to destroy the world, but if all the Electrodes started blowing up, they definitely could.
He doesn't say that about any other Pokemon on the list.
This is an even worse product of you not elaborating, because this is the end result of Jar's segue into why he felt Electrode was the worst Pokemon on this list.
If you want me to elaborate why it's the worst Pokemon on this list, he says this about it.
One Electrode alone would not be enough to destroy the world.
He doesn't say that about any of the other Pokemon, just Electrode.
Boy, you can't just pop into the end of an elaboration and expect your point to make sense. There's no connection between Jar just said that this was the worst one on the list, and he doesn't say what he says about Electrode about any other Pokemon, because that wouldn't explain how I was supposed to know Jar was talking about Electrode being the worst one on this list. As it stands in your video, these look like two separate points, when I know they're not.
If every Electrode's explosion was the size of a few megatons, then yeah, they could possibly destroy the world, but Electrode explosions are the size of grenade explosions. If every single grenade on Earth blew up, yeah, it would cause quite a lot of damage, but nowhere near enough to destroy the world.
Evidence, please? I mean, the burden of proof is on you. I can't find shit all that claims Electrode's explosions are the size of grenades. In fact, what I can find is that Electrode's explosions are rather...
If you have ever seen an Electrode explode in the anime, you can see that it is the same size as a grenade.
And your evidence doesn't prove that. All it proves is that Electrode explodes. Jar at least gave visual evidence of the aftermath of these explosions to show his proof that they're not too different from grenades. Now, I will say, looking back at that point, it is a little on the shakier side of Jar's points, considering Giancarlo even brings up how Electrode's explosions probably aren't reflected properly in a kid's show, as well as brings up the fact that the Pokemon world and the human world are ultimately different logically.
Electrode are pretty scary things. I mean, they can explode at any minute. They also don't care who they explode on. This is probably fine in the Pokemon world, since we've seen them explode many times without causing too much damage, but that wouldn't be the same in our world. You see, Electrodes store their energy under very high pressure, so when they explode, you can be sure they will cause great damage. This probably isn't reflected in the anime because it's a kid's show.
So, Jar does have those points to worry about with his own, but at least he gave examples benefiting his point. At least we can see where he gets the idea that these explosions aren't too different from that of real-life grenades. You don't.
We've seen the Pokemon world endure a lot of things, but one thing that almost destroyed it was the battle between this monster and its nemesis, Kyogre. I personally think that Groudon could destroy our world by merely being on it for a full day, if not less. This Pokemon is pretty much land itself, and what do we live on? Land. Volcanoes would erupt everywhere, earthquakes would be unmeasurable, and continents would break apart. You wanna know the scarier thing though? Groudon doesn't even have to go primal for any of it.
Well, if Groudon didn't destroy the Pokemon world, then what makes you think he can destroy our world?
Again, logic works differently in the Pokemon world. May I bring up the fact that Magcargo can be hugged?
Hey, remember what I said before. Now imagine I said it again.
Now, imagine if it actually debunked my overall point the last time you brought it up. Hell, let's bring up a real-world example. Explode a Porygon in the Pokemon world and only the Porygon dies. Whereas in our world, 600 children will be hospitalized. Cereal?
That's not true. Porygon was not the cause of the flashing lights, he just happened to be in the episode.
That was merely a joke. A really tasteless joke. But a joke. Like, good God, shut up 2016 Doodletones.
As soon as he even starts to erupt volcanoes, America would just nuke him.
I mean, I could bring up the fact that Groudon is practically the god of land, bring up several hypotheticals that put you in an awkward position, or I could just take the easy way out and point to its Pokemon Emerald Pokedex entry where it says it just awakening this thing causes volcanoes to erupt. America wouldn't have time to just nuke Groudon.
If monster movies are anything to go by, America would be all like kill him. Kill him at all cost, hit him with everything we have got.
It would erupt volcanoes on awakening. Even if nuking a literal god was the fix to this plan, America has no time to do such a thing. Volcanoes would be erupting before we even knew what was going on. This isn't a point, this is deflection. Stop. Jar actually debunked this point by pointing out how its Pokédex entry just says volcanoes would erupt instead of all volcanoes would erupt.
Yeah, but how many volcanoes will erupt? 50? 500? All of them? All of them? The thing is, the Pokédex just says that volcanoes will erupt. Not all the volcanoes will erupt.
This point of wording is actually important to debunking my point, because volcanoes erupt. We live with it. Whatever. And since we only have the vague wording of volcanoes would erupt, that doesn't actually tell us how much damage Groudon could do to the Earth, much less destroy it. But that's the difference between your point and Jar's point. Jar was able to look at my point and explain what was wrong with it, whereas you just repeat the point as if that on its own debunks my claim.
Wait, repeat that last part.
The repercussions of killing a god that created the land we stand on is...
That has to be the most retarded thing I've ever heard in my entire artificial life. Groudon created the land in the Pokemon world, not in our world. Do you even know what you are talking about anymore?
Yes, sir, Mr. Plagiarist. Actually, looking back at this retrospectively, I think I do. I just worded it like shit, and my point in general is kind of just an assumption. See, reminder that this is under the hypothetical that Groudon existed within the real world. If he did, then that could make him the god of our land, because as you and Jar both said, he is the god of the land in the Pokemon world. Therefore, that translation could apply. So, on this note, the new Groudon strat repercussions is still something to ask about. This is not as stupid as either of you made it out to be, because of the context of the thought experiment we have here would apply to what these Pokemon are, as well as their abilities. Of course, Giancarlo could have better mentioned whether or not this applies, because, yeah, he doesn't, so ultimately either side could be right, and at the end of the day, we're both just making presumptions as to the nature of the criteria here. To kill a god of the land.
This scenario would be similar to the one with Groudon, except oceans would overflow, thunderstorms would cause massive damage, and tsunamis would destroy everything. Kyogre doesn't need to go primal for any of it either.
Now, I could use the same argument I used for Groudon, but I'm going to do something else this time. Earlier in the video, you said this.
I'm talking about the actual destruction of the Earth, not humanity.
Now, if the Earth was flooded, it wouldn't be destroyed. It would just be, well, covered in water. What even is your definition of being destroyed? This is my definition of being destroyed.
Large amounts of flooding can't destroy the Earth until it does. Storms can't cause damage until they do. Tsunamis can't do damage until they do. You know, it's just water. What harm can it possibly do? Until it does harm. But more to the point, water causes...
What sense when did Jar say that IT couldn't do damage? He just said IT couldn't destroy the world.
Surprise to no one. Jar did this point better.
Doodletones does this a lot. She seems to think me saying that something won't destroy the Earth equals it won't do any damage at all, which is completely false. It's kind of like if someone says, if the polar ice caps melted, the entire Earth would be destroyed. Then I come in and say, no, it wouldn't, it would just do a lot of damage. Then someone else shows up and says, what do you mean the polar ice caps melting won't do any damage whatsoever?
This time, it's because you were asking where Jar said it couldn't do damage, whereas I was under the presumption that the two were synonymous. Whereas Jar points out that my slippery slope of a misunderstanding was a slippery slope. Not only issues to civilization. If you want to take out civilization issues, then it can cause issues with erosion too. It can also kill all the plant life out on Earth. If Kyogre fucking comes in with a flood, that wouldn't be out of place in the Pokemon Old Testament. And sure, while he breaks the rules of his own list, I'm not faulting you there. However, what I can fault you for is, if you're only including natural issues...
Okay, I take that back. This is the most retarded thing I have ever heard in my life. The entire Earth being flooded is not a natural issue. Stay of the week.
Ugh, no, that's not the point, Sylveon. I may have worded it like shit, but to explain, Giancarlo breaks the rules of his list by taking out killing all of civilization, meaning he's removing the humankind aspect from the equation from the rest of this list, barring this entry, meaning he's only looking at the issues it would cause to the natural landscape. A natural issue in this context isn't talking about the Earth flooding being natural. Of course that's not natural. I literally compare it to the Pokemon Old Testament. In this context, a natural issue is looking at the issues it would cause to nature. Again, I will admit, I worded it like absolute garbage, but listening to the context surrounding that point would help you out a ton. Then it's only fair to take out unnatural solutions, like, you know, nuke Groudon. And sure, while destroying the world in that case isn't Death Star blowing up Yavin size, or whatever that fucking planet is, I don't know Star Wars all that well.
No, don't, the nerds will destroy you.
It doesn't change the fact that Kyogre can do a lot of damage to the Earth as it is. Try again.
Try again.
Hey, I get that you wanted to try and piss me off with using my old catchphrase against me as some sort of know-you-gotcha point and as a way to pretend to be me, but, it kinda helps if you make a point before using it. Otherwise, it makes no sense. On that note, math isn't my strong suit, so I'll be skipping the Mega Blastoise segment.
I take that back again. This is the most retarded thing I have heard in my life. It doesn't matter if math is your strong suit or not. What he is saying is so blatantly wrong. The said if Blastos's cannons increased by 50 could destroy the entire world. That's like say 1 + 2 exalts 34,956,432,987,459,560.
So now we're just taking what was Jar's worst point against me then. Alright.
You have got to be kidding me. It doesn't matter if math is your strong suit or not. What he's saying is so blatantly wrong. He's saying that something that can rip through solid steel, increased by 50%, can destroy the Earth. That's like saying 1 + 2 = 420 octillion.
The reason I call this Jar's worst point is because I'm skipping something that I don't know, so I don't know if he was wrong about it or not. I presumed what he was saying was fine here because I would have no idea as to the grounds of his argument. I'm not good at math. Jar obviously has a better grasp of it, so he's effectively getting out of my case for taking his word at face value here. This point never made sense to me.
This is a pet peeve I have with the NeoCC. Why do they have to announce every time they skip a part? Can't they just cut to the part they want to talk about? Here, it'll do it for you.
Imagine calling the SCC the NeoCC after 2017. Couldn't be me. Also, as to why I use skip cards, it's because I know people use my videos as background noise while they draw or play games, so I have moments of alleviation when I'm skipping things to clue those listening in. Other people use them for extra comic relief, some use it to make it clear that they are skipping things so as to not be accused of maliciously taking out context for the purposes of making their target look bad. There's a plethora of reasons as to why we would use these things. You don't gotta like it, but to get on our case for what is ultimately a pet peeve is not my problem.
Arceus. Do I even have to explain this one? According to Sinnoh Legend, this godly Pokemon created Sinnoh and possibly the entire Pokemon universe. And if that legend is true, it can most definitely destroy our tiny world, along with our entire universe.
I do agree with this point, but I have a small question. Do you think if the universe was 50% smaller, it would be the size of a galaxy? Just asking.
Well, I'm glad you actually have some logic, and you can't really argue with a god that has shown himself to the world. However, what is with that random question at the end? Does it have anything to do with Carlos Mango or whatever?
I completely agree. Jar did that for no reason to say that. Oh, wait, he did. The reason is in a clip that you conveniently edit out. Now, Doodletones, I am trying really hard to be reasonable in this video.
Yo, where? You literally called me retarded 3 times up to this point. Everything else has been pinching, sometimes word for word, from Jar's video. I'll come back to this though in my final thoughts.
For someone that constantly says things like taking things out of context or calling other people scummy, you just blatantly edited something to change what Jar said. Honestly, go fuck yourself.
Actually, nothing was changed in this segment between Jar's video and my video at all.
Arceus. Do I even have to explain this one? According to Sinnoh Legend, this godly Pokemon created Sinnoh and possibly the entire Pokemon universe. And if that legend is true, it can most definitely destroy our tiny world, along with our entire universe.
I do agree with this point, but I have a small question. Do you think if the universe was 50% smaller, it would be the size of a galaxy? Just asking.
To accuse me of maliciously removing context, at least in this segment, is blatantly untrue when you go back to Just a Robot's original video to see the original context. Like, I get you're trying to pinch from jargon to let him do all the work for you, but really, while honestly you shouldn't just be rehashing anyone's video in a way that's blatant plagiarism, if you're going to plagiarize someone, do it right at least. In Jar's video, sure, he did say that I conveniently left out the clip that explained his question. He at least, 1, showed the clip in question that I removed to demonstrate that his retort stemmed from Giancarlo's Blastoise segment where he brought up Blastoise's 50% special attack buff. meaning Jar was most likely asking this in the Arceus segment as a mere jab at Giancarlos's poor math. And 2, didn't accuse me of doing it on purpose so he could call me a hypocrite for something I did, on accident mind you, 5 years ago. The reason I skipped over that point in my initial video, as explained before, was because I presumed what Jar was saying was correct during the Blastoise segment, not to make this point later on. You'd be able to gather that if you paid attention to my video instead of trying to get Senpai Robot to notice you as you rub one off on a picture of me with sandpaper in hand.
Do you know how hot the surface of the sun is? 9,940 degrees Fahrenheit.
It's over 9,000!
But that's still not as hot as Magcargo's body temperature, which is almost double at 18,000 degrees Fahrenheit. This is obviously not a problem in the Pokemon world for whatever reason, but that wouldn't work here. Magcargo could destroy our world just by being close to it, and that probably makes it one of the most dangerous Pokemon on this list.
Now granted, that would cause a lot of damage, but nuclear explosions are far hotter and way bigger than a few 100,000 Magcargos.
This does not prove Mango Man wrong, though. All you really do is imply nukes don't do damage to the Earth on their own. You don't prove the point Magcargo would practically hurt the Earth, seeing as it's approximately 2 times hotter than the Sun, if my grade school...
The Doodletones is a retard counter is at 4 now.
Good going. Sick editing. 10 out of 10. Here, let me get the point I know you were trying to make against me had you edited this portion properly and didn't just leave us on a humorous amount of silence.
What? My argument is, we have things on Earth that are way hotter than twice the surface of the sun. If they can't destroy the Earth, then Magcargo can't destroy the Earth. And not just nukes, we have plasma cutters that are far hotter than Magcargo.
By the way, want to point out, Sylveon reposted this video from their AU Doodleclones account to their Doodleclones account, and didn't fix this mistake in between versions. I just find that incredibly funny.
The Regigigas towed continents with ropes. And you know how people are. If they saw a Regigigas walking around, their first thought would be to attack it.
Excuse me, Mr. Pokemon List Guy, what are you on?
Bro, isn't that the same point you made during the Groudon segment? That people would try to nuke a Pokemon like this? For someone who loves to get on my case for hypocrisy and lack of self-awareness, I'm beginning to wonder how much you have yourself.
Scenario of how our world could end. But the entire planet freezing? Yeah, I don't think we've covered that yet. Out of all the Ice-type legendary Pokemon, Kyurem is probably the only one that can accomplish that. During Black 2 and White 2, Team Plasma froze Opelucid City with the help of Kyurem and some technology. But that's the Pokemon world. If we've learned anything during all of this, is that the Pokemon world is a lot more resistant than ours. So I have no doubt in my mind that Kyurem could freeze our entire planet and end life as we know it.
The only thing we learned so far is that you're an idiot.
That's the only thing I have learned as well.
Even if your argument about the Pokemon world being more resistant than our world was correct, it would have to be a few million times more resistant. Here's the landmass of New York City, and this is the landmass of the entire Earth. You may have noticed that the landmass of the entire Earth is a bit more than 50% bigger than New York City. No, I'm not going to let that go.
So, the Pokemon world isn't more resistant than a human world. Huh, there's a specific Pokemon...
Was that poor wording on Jar's part? Yes, absolutely, but Jor never said that is wasn't.
He kinda did, though. Even if you want to chalk it up to poor wording on Jar's end, you're still acknowledging that he did so here. He implied that Giancarlo's point about the Pokemon world being more resistant than the human world might not be true through his, even if we were to presume X to be true, that prefaced the rest of his point. Now that said, this is not the crux of his argument. What you go on to plagiarize before moving into final thoughts is what Jar was trying to get across, being that if the Pokemon world is more resistant, it would have to be a few million times more resistant for Kyurem's powers to affect the entire world. So really I was attacking the wrong aspect of his argument here. That doesn't remove the scuffed wording though, that just means that it isn't important. Especially because, as mentioned before, Jar agrees with the idea that the Pokemon world is more resistant than the human world.
You can't just say that's something that would destroy a city in one world. Would destroy a planet in another. Okay, final thoughts time. Doodletones, I know I may come across as an asshole to you, but I genuinely want to see you improve. You have a lot to get better. You don't seem like a terrible person. Oh, wait, well, forget that. It seems this dark path just gets deeper. Oh, and by the way, Doodletones, this is just the beginning.
Oh joy! Can't wait. Spoiler alert, that video will too be driven entirely on spite and a vindictive hatred of me, probably because of what V Omega said about that video. if not what Kiwi Farm said about that video. He's going to say that I'm trying to push responsibility onto everyone else due to one singular sentence within that video and say that I wasn't being genuine because I haven't improved in his eyes, and started the video with a sigh, because apparently that invalidates all apology videos now. Either way, I've heard it over and over again. Final thoughts. Just a Robot's video on me is one of the most important videos for me. As much as it may not have looked to be the case the year that situation happened, I did look at Jar's video as valid critique that was made not out of any sort of negative feelings towards me, but because he genuinely found issues with my video. And to be honest, that's probably the last video that I can think of that covers an entire commentary of mine that was like this and was good because of it. V's was close, but in hindsight, the fact that he made it purely because I was mentally breaking down in his DMs talking about how much I didn't care for my video on Umbris definitely rubs me the wrong way. Plus, it was more of a video on Umbris and Larvesta than it was on me, but that's neither here nor there. That's an entirely different discussion. Point is, Jar's video is good. Flawed, I'll admit, but good. And as time goes on, I appreciate it more for what it is because there are way too many videos on me, especially nowadays, that come out with a vendetta because they have a grudge against me, because they don't like me for some sort of arbitrary reason or for something that happened years ago. And like, I get it. I'm not that good of a content creator, or as a person. My history is absolutely destroyed, and maybe I'm not doing that great at becoming a better person. I don't discount these possibilities. But to sit here and choose destruction over critique is why it seems like 2017 I haven't taken any criticism. It's not because I can't. In fact, literally my video on Xenon Quark was me practically begging for it. But it feels this way because people haven't given me a reason to feel like their critique comes off as genuine or from a place of me wanting to get better, over wanting to tear me down and demoralize me until I go offline. That's why I feel your video, Sylveon, is, as of this moment, the worst video to have been done on me. Though I'm not going to count your video on Confessions out of the runnings just yet because, well, we'll see soon enough, I guess. But your video was made purely on the back of disdain and spite against me because of dramas that happened years ago, and then you said vindication against me to drive this video into lazy plagiarism, sometimes in ways that drag even Jar's video down with you, shining a light with problems that his video had on me in hindsight, and otherwise half-assing his points so spectacularly to the point of invalidation. And honestly, I think that just exacerbates the problem with doing a commentary like this. To better fit with the theme of plagiarism in this video, let me take from a once great commentator who had a speech just for a situation like this, because I feel it's prevalent to the situation. You're trying to do the exact opposite of what commentators are meant to do and follow the commentator stereotype as an obnoxious destructive tool with no real intent to help others, but with the intent to tear others down. Listen, I just want to get real with you guys for a second. I know I come off as pretty sarcastic and occasionally douchey in some of my videos, but I make these videos to help, not drive away. Now, I'm not saying you can't just make videos to debate, but when destroying someone's image or tearing another person down like you did here is your main priority, which you pretty much flat out said was the case, then sorry sir, you get no respect from me, try again. So, for my advice, drop the spite, come up with points that aren't just ripped from other commentators, and try to come into these videos actually with the intent to help instead of taking people down. Because as it stands, this is just a product of 2016 leaking into the current year. Take it or leave it, at this point, I don't care. And now, a word or two from the man himself. I cannot thank him enough for this cameo, link to his channel both below and during the end card. Jar, take the floor.
Hello everybody, it's me, Char, using his normal voice with absolutely no filter. But in all seriousness, when I uploaded my video on Doodletones, what has it been, 4 or 5 years? I had no idea it would blow up as much as it did. I just uploaded my commentary on top 10 Pokemains that can destroy the world, or was it 11? I don't even remember. Because I was leaving to visit my sister in North Carolina, and I wanted to upload something that wouldn't be controversial. Boy, was I wrong. Now there's 2 reasons as to why my video on Doodletones blew up. One, like half a dozen people did videos about it, and a lot of people were arguing in the comments section. More people talking about the video means it's going to get more views, and the more people comment on the video, the more it's favored by the YouTube algorithm. And the other reason is because of the drama Doodletones had with Mr. Medicare shortly after my video, blowing it up even more. I am thankful for how good the video did. That being said, I am really tired of hearing about Doodletones. I keep running into people asking me to talk about Doodletones again. And I'm tired of it. And Doodletones is tired of it. Guys, she had more than enough. What did she do? A bad video on me because she misunderstood my video. And that's it. You're acting like she diddled a kid or something. No, she just misunderstood one of my videos, and she wasn't even that harsh to me. I truly believe Doodletones just misunderstood my video and made a mistake. But people are acting like she falsely accused me of rape. For the love of God, Zikozo, leave her alone already. Whatever punishment you think she deserves, she already got it. I really hate YouTubers, or pretty much anyone who gets popular, who always plays the victim card even though they're clearly winning in a drama, and acting like the person they're fighting against is the big mean bully who scares them. Doodletones doesn't scare me at all. Do you know why? She got curb stomped. For the love of God, I'm not the victim here in any way, shape, or form. Don't tell me, oh, I'm so sorry about what Doodletones did to you. All she did was misunderstand a video I made, that's it. Get over yourself, stop being such an SJW pussy. I remember when I was very young, there was this episode of Arthur the Aardvark. I forgot which episode it was, I think it might be in Season 1 or Season 2, I know it's one of the earlier ones. Where Francine makes fun of, I think it was Sylveon the dog girl, it was a really long time ago, I don't remember all their names. She made fun of her for being quiet, and I think she called her a mouse. This caused all the other kids in school to start making fun of her. Francine is talking to the lunch lady and she says, I know I shouldn't have called her a mouse, but why do they all have to be so mean to me? And that's how I feel about Doodletones. She shouldn't have done what she done, but she's faced enough punishment for it already. Get over it.